You're this perp back with another video, and I just got done checking out the second episode of Candy. Now, this was interesting how they're releasing this. So on Hulu, they're releasing 5 episodes, and that's going to be like an episode per day. And I always thought that would be a dope idea for a mini series or a show to kind of do that. I think more mini series should definitely more. I think more streaming services should do that type of method, especially like Disney Plus. Like I think Disney Plus could definitely do that with one of their Marvel shows. But anyways, let's get into this episode because man, I feel like I like this episode more than the first, even though the first was a really good introduction. This one we got kind of just go back in time like 2 years, and we get a lot more backstory on Betty's character and just how she used to be a teacher. She really has this like she really can't stand kids. You know what I'm saying? It's something about kids that kind of triggers her, and you see that throughout this episode. But you see why she is the way she is towards her husband, and this definitely changes my kind of outlook on both Betty's character and also Candy's character. And it's interesting to me that this episode really focuses heavily on those two characters and kind of where they kind of descended into like somewhat madness, or where it was kind of, we're kind of seeing the build up and where we could possibly see their breaking points. What I really find interesting is 2 years ago, Betty adopted another child named David. Now, David is a pretty cool character for this episode. Where that goes is really interesting, and it's very telling about Betty's character. Well, what I like about this episode is, we get a lot more backstory on Betty. And I feel like that kid, because she mentions in the previous episode that she's pregnant, or she thinks she's pregnant. And the Alan is kind of like, nah, there's no way. Just take the other pill. I don't know if that's like a plan B or something like that. I have a feeling that she might be up to no good, and she might have possibly had an affair, which is kind of like the theme of this episode. Now we cut to a quick scene of, Candy washing the blood off in their house, trying to clean up, just leaving a whole mess. I just don't think she's thinking straight. We definitely see her breaking point, and I can kind of see where these two characters kind of had some issues with each other. But I really like this scene. I thought it was really telling without saying anything. You could just see that she doesn't know what she's really done here, and it definitely seems like she regrets the decision to kill Betty. You know what I'm saying? So I like that we're kind of getting this build up. So then we dive a little bit more into Candy's past, and how she's really connected to this church, and she's really connected to the Pastor Jackie. And they definitely have a kind of a darker side to them. They're not fully devoted Christians or Catholics or whatever religion that they believe in. They like these erotic like books and stuff. But where the theme of this whole episode starts is, the pastor is getting a divorce with her husband. I think his name was Bill, and Candy's kind of like really shocked by that, and this leads her to kind of go down like some memory lane type shit with her husband, and trying to reconnect with her husband. He has this whole like little treasure box of just all the different things she's collected over the years. She's listening to, I'm assuming, their favorite song. And it seems like that always kind of happens with certain marriages. Just it, for one person it might just get boring and they want to kind of spice it up. The Pat just doesn't get he doesn't get the signals. So we get to this scene in church. But before we get to this scene in church, I always thought that it was the other way around. Like, people kind of looked at Candy weird, but no, they really look at Betty. Betty is really like kind of the outcast. and she tries to kind of reconnect with the people at church by saying like, yo, maybe all of our kids should get together and do some things, and they just kind of look at her weird. um Now we get to the part in church where the pastor is not there. Pretty much the guy that's kind of the stand-in pretty much tells the whole congregation or just the church that they're getting a divorce, which is kind of weird why you would just announce that to everybody. But everybody kind of freaks out. I thought it was a pretty funny scene to me that everybody kind of freaks out, and this kind of really, I like that they kind of focused on Betty's facial expression because she kind of looked worried. Candy, on the other hand, kind of looks at it a little bit differently on the opposite end, where Betty is kind of concerned and she thinks that this is going to happen to her. And you have on the other side that Candy's like, nah, like she kind of gets turned on by like this stuff. And it's interesting that they have this whole community volleyball kind of get together thing, which for me, I liked volleyball growing up in like middle school and high school. Really took it serious. Just a little side note. Um, you definitely see Alan and Candy starting to get a little bit more friendly. But this is where Jackie kind of comes in with her new man, and now Candy is pretty much very envious of this, and in a tad bit, not, I wouldn't say jealous, but she's definitely envious of this. She wants this with her and Pat. This shifts things back to Betty, and just you really see where her breaking point pretty much started, where she's kind of tired of Alan leaving all the time and being stuck with the kids. And David starts to have a falling out with Betty, because he's feeding the dog and she doesn't like that. She's like, don't do that. And he's very rebellious. I don't think Betty understands that he's probably just doing that obviously for attention and trying to, it's kind of like a cry out for help type of scenario. Then we switch things back over to, I think is my favorite part of this episode, where you see Candy trying to get one off, but keeps getting distracted. She just wants that passion. She wants to get laid, pretty much. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of shit she's on right now. You know what I'm saying? She's kind of getting bored with Pat and just the way things are, and she wants to really shake things up. But this was definitely my favorite part of the episode. No doubt, seeing Jessica Biel in the tub. Who wouldn't want? Come on. Anyways, so then while Alan's out on his at his job, of course you have Betty just bugging him, just blowing up the phone, saying like, "I hope you're not with nobody." She's very paranoid, I would say. This really shows how paranoid she is, because while Alan's out, making sure he can provide for his family. And they mentioned that in the earlier in the episode that having more kids is gonna he's gonna have to work more. So it's kind of like, you know she wants more kids, but at the same time that's gonna make him have to go out and work more. So it's kind of like you can't have your cake and eat it too, Betty. Like, you know what I'm saying? So while she's home, she's kind of freaking out because the kids are just having fun. They're just, Christina and David are really getting along, and she just can't take the noise. And she even tries to keep bugging Alan, and Alan's just like ignoring her calls, which leads her to kind of snap out on David because she's like, "Yo, chill out before I smack you." Pretty much threatened to hit the kid. The kid kind of, it seems like he's been through this. He's been through these traumatic things, like going through different foster homes and stuff, and he feels like it's a repeat of what's to come. So she tries to make up for it by, you know, trying to throw a birthday party using old invitations from Christina, her party. And it's like, it doesn't work because those invitations are obviously meant for girls. We'll get back to that very shortly, though. Jumping back to, Jackie, Candy, and I don't know who the other friend is. Obviously, they're gossiping that they're having girlfriend talk and whatnot, and they're just talking to Jackie about her having an affair, and Candy is just getting off on this. She kind of wants this. She wants this kind of excitement. So she's like, "Yo, tell me everything in detail. Don't leave nothing out." And we also kind of see her descendant. What kind of, you know, the pastor was pretty much her anchor, and then ever since she left, it seems like she's been on a downward spiral. She doesn't really know what to do anymore. And there's that theme where, you know, you have Betty worried about Alan, and you have Candy worried about the pastor, Jackie, and that's her best friend. And now she feels even more lonely. Swinging it back to the house with Betty and everybody, this is where things really get heated, and we start to see even Alan and Betty start to have kind of a falling out because of David and how she handled that situation. And she literally tells Alan, "You don't understand how it feels to be here alone." But she's not here alone. She doesn't even really, I would even say she wouldn't even attempt to really take care of these kids. Like, she doesn't, kids, something about kids just annoys her. And it makes sense now in the first episode why she didn't really have any pushback of, you know, um, Candy keeping her kid a little bit longer, like an extra night. And maybe that has something to do with, like, Christina not really being her actual child, so she doesn't really care. I just feel like she has some type of issue with just kids in general. You remember when I was saying that Pat doesn't really see the signs and doesn't see that Candy wants more attention. She wants love. You know what I'm saying? She's trying to read him this, like, erotic novel, and he just doesn't get it. And this makes her call up Jackie, said, like, "Look, I'm about to have an affair." And Jackie's like, "No, that's not a good idea. That you don't want to blow up your life. You have a good life. You don't need to do that." So with Betty kind of pretty much letting David, like, do his own thing, go back to the system, that really triggers Alan, and Alan just kind of just storms out the building, or storms out the house, I should say, and he's kind of just fed up right now. He can't believe that Betty would do that to the kid, because the kid would just needed a place. And you know, and it's interesting, and this is where Candy starts to get kind of dolled up, and they go to the volleyball game, and Candy is just stalking. She doesn't know who she's going to pick, but she ends up picking Alan, and she pretty much lets it be known, like, "Yo, I want to have an affair." And the look on Alan's face was hilarious, because I think it's going to happen. I think it's going to happen, even though, Candy did kiss him. It's probably going to go a little bit farther, and I think that's where things get really interesting. And I like how this ends with her at trial. So that's dope too. And it seems like she is willing to kind of plead guilty. I think she's going to end up getting a life sentence here, maybe. Who knows? I don't know how this is going to end. But it's interesting to me, because now it seems like Candy at one point kind of wants to take over Betty's life in a way. I don't know. Let me know how you guys feel about this episode. I thought this episode was really dope, kind of just seeing the two different perspectives. And I'm curious to see how episode 3 and 4 and 5 are going to play out, and how they're going to wrap all this out in the next 3 episodes. But let me know how you guys feel about it in the comments below. Till next time, I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.